Hey, it's the Doodads podcast. What we're embarking on really is two dads who struggle, who are average Joes, and we thought that probably there's other dads out there. In fact, just like, I don't know,
several.
Yeah, there's a few dads out there that probably wake up and grind every day and try to figure up from down, in from out, right from wrong, and go to bed probably feeling less than 100. So we wanted to do something meaningful. I'm Carl.
And I'm Brandon. And yeah, like Carl said, we just wanted to offer our thought. And look, I think it's important that the tone gets set from the very beginning and everybody knows that we are by no means experts, nor are we claiming to be experts in the field of dadding. And well, I guess so. But, neither of us are anywhere near perfect. I think we probably barely consider ourselves to be adults, but we figured that if we could try to put our brains together, our very large brains, and come up with some type of conversation, information, experience, make people laugh, tell stories, we have plans moving forward, but for this first episode, we kind of just wanted to get together and talk about how we ended up here and some of the things that came to mind over the last month or so in putting this together. There's no real formal agenda. More than anything, it's just going to be a matter of sitting down and having a conversation. But yeah, I don't know. Do you want to start?
Well, I think the idea, which I think for a while, I know during COVID, when you're in your house, I tried to learn ASL, right? Because people who learn American Sign Language can do that in just a couple of months. Mm-hmm. So, but I did. I had all these ideas, and I was like, man, I could do a podcast. I don't know the first thing of what to do. I was, I'm not that inclined. But I think over time, also want to give a big shout out to Ray Media,
Yeah.
letting us use this studio.
Yeah.
But, I had ideas, and I think over time talking with our buddy Ken, and he somehow was like, hey, you should talk to Brandon. And we just went and rapped, had some coffee, and I don't know. I think also getting to the intent is that while a lot of this is some comedy, some of it might be some organic real emotion. We have the intention of guests, but I think that the truth is that we realize, the two of us especially, is that when you talk about legacy, when you talk, we come from this, our fathers and our fathers' fathers and beyond is this just, it hasn't changed. It has been this ongoing, a father is this and a dad does this. He plays this role in the home. He makes this much and this is who he is. And it's the 21st century. There's a lot of things that have changed. There's a lot of difference. There's a lot of role changes within the household. Yeah. There's a lot of maybe some might say a little bit more compassion between fathers and their kids. But we realize, I think, that our kids truly are legacy. Mm-hmm. When a man would say, "What am I leaving behind?" Yeah. And it's, statues erected in their honor, the money they've made, the contributions to society. And I don't know about you, but I think we both agreed over coffee one day was that maybe the greatest things we'll leave behind is our kids. And so to make a product that at least we can say, if nobody ever gets into this, if this never becomes anything, it lets our kids know, I think as dads, how much we care, what we think is important.
Yeah, well, and to that point, over the weekend, I was just thumbing through whatever, Facebook or Instagram or one of them, and I came across, obviously we're both big sports guys, and Carl's kind of you're kind of the statistician and the history guy when it comes to sports, and I'm more of the
because I never was good at them.
Yeah, well, and I I was going to kind of make that point without being an asshole about it, but I was kind of the guy who threw
We're
the
here
ball
to talk
really
about
hard
dads and past dads. So look,
well, this is part of what
okay.
got me to be a dad. Before I ever had my own kid, I was coaching other people's kids for some ungodly reason. They trusted me to do that, but I think I taught them well. But anyway, I was reading and came across, one of my I don't know, childhood heroes, I guess you could say, was Ken Griffey Jr. And
The hat.
Did you see this?
No.
Okay. So they had asked Ken Griffey Jr., they were talking about his dad and so on and so forth. Or before that, they were talking about, where did the backwards hat come from? Why did, Ken Griffey Jr. notorious or known for always wearing the backwards hat, the big smile, the smooth swing, kind of just the kid. Making baseball fun. And he had said, in short, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he had said that, it was never meant to be a fashion statement. It was never meant to make him look cool. It was just when he was younger, he wanted to wear his dad's hats. And when he wore them forward, they were too big and they'd, fall down on his face and whatever. So he decided to wear it backwards. And that kind of just stuck. And, with this podcast, all of this in mind, when reading that, I thought, that's legacy. Like that to me, because look, not every dad is going to be situated to leave their kid. I think most of the dads that if any dads end up listening to this, are not going to be situated to leave their kid $10 million.
And I don't, not to interrupt, but like also it breaks certain stereotypes.
Right.
Baseball, America's game at one time, a predominantly white game.
Right.
At a certain time, it's very, button up. This is who we are. You play behind the badge. There's a certain look. And here comes this kid. Even though he's got a great smile, he's got a backwards hat. Like, who does he think he is?
Right.
Just because his dad played.
Popping the bubble gum.
Right. And I think that speaks volumes as to also like when you do something with genuine, organic, just like you said, he just wanted to wear his dad's hat. And It became kind of this, it's almost like, it's the same with me, with my hat. I mean, I feel naked without a hat. And so like his probably
bald as shit.
We're not even going to let me take my hat off. But the idea is that he just wanted to wear his dad's hat, and it became so a part of who he is.
Yeah.
Right? Like so in his makeup. Waking up in the morning, I put my hat on.
Yep.
He put it on backwards because he'd been doing it since he was a kid. It was muscle memory.
Right.
And he did it out of just desire to want to wear his dad's hat. And what did it do? It changed his bust. The Hall of Fame has got his backwards hat.
And it's cool because, I mean, I don't even know, so, and not to like digress or get away from this conversation at all, but I think part of, this first conversation, this first episode, and kind of revealing a little bit about our family lives and our personal kind of situations. I'm married and I've got a daughter. Her name's Julia. She'll be 4 in July, so she's 3 and some change right now. But
is that how math works?
Math, I don't know. Like I said, athlete. But I'll never forget, and I don't know if maybe we can work this out or at some point maybe try to pull this picture up at this point. But, this was maybe a year and a half ago. We were outside just kind of hanging out, me and her and my wife. And, I do home inspections and I build fences and I wear hats for work. I wear hats not at work. The only time I'm not really wearing a hat is when I'm sleeping. And she was sitting in the bed of my truck and she put my hat on, and I have this 2 or 3 different pictures of her wearing my hat. And it's like one of my favorite sets of pictures of her that I've taken in her, 3.5 years of life. And we've spent money on the professional pictures. And if I had a freaking dollar for every time I heard my wife say, "Look at mommy's camera, smile," I'm like, first of all, no. Second of all, like the candid stuff of just her wearing the hat, and it's like this, and she's got her big cheese on her face, and she's a little girl, So I don't know what it is about a hat. Like we went down this hat rabbit hole, but like there's something about a hat and a dad and the kid and the hat, yeah, man, I don't know, that Ken Griffey Jr. story for me was like, this is what a legacy is all about. Like that's what I want I want that relationship. I want to leave that mark. And that's not to say my daughter's going to go running around wearing backwards hats, but just in theory, like this intangible thing that, not only had his effect on his son, but I mean, me as a 8, 9, 10-year-old baseball kid, like every freaking hat I wore was backwards, every hat. And I didn't start wearing hats forwards until like society told me it was not very professional to wear a backwards
My
hat.
dad, he just turned, speaking of math, 80, 41.
Don't hurt yourself.
He's 82. He just turned 82 in November.
People years?
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's like 400 in dog years, I think. But he used to, like, I would wear my hat backwards and he would be like, "Are you a catcher?" Only catchers wear their hat backwards.
Mike Piazza.
Yeah, and he thought it was like kind of cute, and I'm like, I think that in itself is the difference.
Yeah.
Right? Like my dad, it's so crazy. There was always a lot of my child, and look, I got 2 kids. I've got a stepdaughter who my wife, and we'll talk about that in another episode, but my wife and I, we go back a ways. Known her for a long time. But when she kind of reappeared in my life, she had this little 4 or 5-year-old thing, and it's kind of like messed up. I mean, just in my experience, they show up with the cute kid, and it's like it's not really fair,
Right,
you got this cute kid, it's and I fell in love with Aubrey, and she, I mean, we've been together so long. She's 14 now, and she's gonna be 15 in March.
Dude, I hope you're taking notes. Because I'm gonna need them.
There's no book for adolescent girls.
I think that book for me is titled, "Hey, Go Talk to Your Mom." I don't know how much I can do, but we'll see. We'll find out.
No, this is just complete defeat. I'm sorry. No, but I like, and I have a 3-year-old son that is Courtney and I's, and it's crazy because my sister was 9 years older than me, and they have an 11-year difference, and the experiences I had in my household with my dad and how like he said and did things, and the way I am with them, or I at least try to be, is I try to be intentional. Mm-hmm. Because I never know if the hat that they put on and the way they do it is something that really marks and becomes this part of their character.
Right.
That builds character and self-awareness and who they are. Or does some little quip, some little, like, what I think is some cute anecdote that I'm throwing at them for my own entertainment. Love you, Dad. Right. Look.
Right.
And I do. I love my father. My mom passed away. What I have as far as parents is my dad, and I love my father, but for all that he is, there's a lot that he lacks. Mm-hmm. And I know that, like, when I'm 80 something, if I live that long, I'm sure my kids will say, and for all that my dad is, there's a lot that he lacks. But like he said little things and thought it was cute and entertaining. It's like, I realize how important it is to be intentional with them, and like realize like this little thing right here might be just in this moment the most important, like just exponentially life-changing experience. And to me, it's an opportunity to make some little cute joke that warps them 20 years from now. Right. I don't know, man. It's a rabbit hole with hats,
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like to that point, there's like this, and I think part of a lot of the conversation moving forward with this is based on, I know for me, and I have not been a dad for very long, like I said, 3.5 years. And I know one of the things that I struggle with for sure is either teaching or instilling or correcting or disciplining, however you want to look at it, her based on what I think is right or what I was taught is right. And like just the Ken Griffey situation, could you imagine if Senior was like, "No, son, turn your hat forwards. You're going to wear your hat this way." Like, no, he let him have that thing.
Does he even keep playing baseball?
Does he keep playing does he, I mean, all the
butterfly
what ifs,
effect type shit.
All the what ifs. And it's like, not that, again, like, and I catch myself often, and I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine probably a year or two ago, and it's what he said has stuck with me since. And now, granted, this dude's got freaking 6 kids, you know, and so he's got a little bit more experience in the dad department than I've got. But he was like, you know, one of the things that I deal with a lot when it comes to disciplining the kids is, am I acting or reacting this way because it's what's best for them, or is it because I just want them to know I'm in charge? I just want them to know that this is right, you know? And it's like, there's kind of that weird little fine line of because I think I can't let my 3-year-old run around and dictate what's right and wrong, but at the same time, like, let her wear her hat backwards if she wants, you know?
So yeah, like, and I mean, we've talked about, like, we both have sordid pasts.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
you know, and for anybody that ever watches this or ever listens to this, and continues even, which, thank you, loyal followers.
You don't know who you are yet, but you exist.
But I mean, if they do, like, and I mean, I want to be like, I have no business having kids. Right. I have no business being married. I have no business.
Right.
And I am like, you know, I'm, you know, we both, you know, we're both involved in different, like, outreach programs. You know, I happen to go to Angola, you know, and go talk to inmates over there. And, like, I realize, like, the difference between them and myself is seconds and inches. I realize that, like, certain aspects of my life, had I made this turn, like, I am in prison or I am dead or whatever, you know, and here I sit today. And since then, you know, like, I have continuously tried to figure that, like, I didn't get married till I was 40.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't get married till I was 40. Yeah. I didn't have my first biological kid till I was 39. And I wanted to do that the other way around.
Yeah, but shout out to the out of wedlock babies that are out there,
right?
You know,
look,
I mean, sometimes it's okay to go backwards. You know, there's plenty of DJs that made their money off of reverse, and so sometimes you just got to throw out the order of things.
I want you to go drink the coffee cup.
You know?
But no, like, and that's the thing. We were locked in a house. It's COVID.
Right. You're humping.
Yeah. But, like, I realize beyond a shadow of a doubt that, like, and there would be a line of people probably that would line up outside the door and say that, like, he does have no business having kids.
Yeah, yeah.
There are probably people that aren't my biggest fan, and that's okay. Hope you're listening. But what I do know is that, you know, man, with that being said, when I'm with them, it's everything changed once kids got involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's funny with at least how we did it, having, you know, I had a stepdaughter, but then having Ben and then getting married, because, I mean, it was, all right, we're married, like, we can't just break up.
Right.
Because at 40, I'm like, I'm not doing this again.
Right.
But when he was born, like, I realized, like, in that moment, I was like, no matter what, I got to get it right. Like, there is no, like, all right, if this doesn't work out, like, I'm in it. I'm in this kid's life for good and for all, forever. Like, no matter what. And that's, like, every day is how am I being what it is that they need me to be. Right. Rather than what I want them to be, like you said, you know. I tell Aubrey, you know, especially, she was, you know, she snuck out of some play. Oh, dude, yeah, you know, just
grounded,
living her best life. Well, you know, she's at this magnet school. She's a smart kid, but she's 14. Right. Yeah. And her and some friends decided to take off and you know, hey, can I have $20? Can I go to the play? So they go. And, you know, I drop her off and I pick her up, no word. But we get a call from the assistant principal the next day or whatever, like, oh, yeah, her and some friends got caught running around the school, whatever. And it's like, petty, like, compared to what me and you were doing, like, I'm going, like, you're a saint.
Right.
But, like, you went with your move.
Right.
And you got to catch your Jose now. you got to take your lick.
Yeah.
And she's, like, falling apart. And what I'm trying to do is, like, have this communication with her, and all I'm hearing is my dad, who's like, what were you thinking? Yeah. Look at what you did to your mother. Yeah. What kind of person lies and shit? I'm like, 14 years, you know, like, where is that line?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and I don't know, man. I mean, it's funny because I think I put, with and again, just to backtrack a little bit without getting too far deep into the story, same as you with my situation. I married, my high school sweetheart per se. While I was in the Marine Corps, we were together. We got married. She, the whole nine, and I got out, and due to issues that we'll be discussing in another episode that we've hinted at, it didn't work out. But like the fact that I can be married happily, January 21st, we just celebrated our 3rd anniversary. We've been married 3 years. Our daughter's almost 4 and our dog's almost 5. So we went dog, kid, and then traditional white wedding.
That's a solid formula.
So, if you're confused, anybody who may end up listening to this about how to do it, I highly suggest the dog child wedding method that has worked so successfully for me.
You can skip the plant.
Yeah,
you can
don't
just
need
go,
the plant.
Okay.
Don't need the plant.
No plant for a year. Get the dog.
Right. It goes townhouse, dog, baby, marriage.
Ah.
Yeah. Don't do an apartment or a condo, specifically a townhouse.
Okay.
Is my,
upstairs, downstairs.
Both.
Okay.
Both up and down.
Wow.
Which makes for fun, post C-section travels, the staircase. But anyway, I was married to
She
this.
had a C-section?
Yeah. So, yeah,
we did too. Yeah.
Yeah. She was in labor for.
You paint this guy as like he's like a mechanic. Like we've been at this for a couple hours, Look,
listen, we're gonna need to change the filter. yeah.
Like he's coming out of the cellar. I looked at your AC.
It was a lady, and truth be told, she was a little bit rude, and that's I don't know, but I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to medical school, but I don't necessarily know if that's the time to be rude. Maybe it is. Maybe you need to like take control of the situation. Be like, hey, you should probably do this, medically speaking. But like, I was also at the same time like, you're being a little disrespectful right now. Like we're kind of going through some things.
Watch yourself.
Yeah, and so. Anyway,
coming at my wife all wrong.
Right, her legs are 6 feet in the air right now. I've got on purple gloves and a hairnet. It's nothing like the movies. I'm back there playing quarterback with my helmet on backwards, pretty much, and not on a baseball field. Like I don't know what's going on. I thought there was going to be like multiple people and lights and all this thing. No, it's me, a nurse, another nurse who's doing the downset hut. I'm holding the back of the head and a leg up in the air, asking her if she wants sips of water in the meantime.
I so didn't have this experience.
Okay, well, I'm glad you got the Hollywood version of childbirth, but
and I didn't. We'll get there.
So, but yeah, so they came in and they were like, she was like, look, we probably need to go in and get her out. You're spiking fever. Your husband needs a Xanax, like whatever. and so they left and we talked about it and said a little prayer. And then we ended up, she did the C-section and I don't even know how we came about with this story. Oh, because of the 2-story townhouse. Somehow we went from townhouse to C-sections, but, yeah, she did the C-section, and it's funny. I'll never forget the doctor was this cool lady, and this was not the rude doctor, different doctor. But when they pulled Julia out, she was a big baby. She was 8 pounds, 8 ounces. She was thick, and yeah. And so when I don't know if anybody heard that, but the producer said, "Damn, like this was some kind of mixtape talking about my kid's size." But she's fit now. Okay?
Julia, you are beautiful.
Yeah, all listen, right. Whatever.
You are beautiful.
She knows.
You're wonderful.
She knows she's beautiful. The kid doesn't lack any confidence. I don't know who she gets that from, but so the doctor pulled her out. First of all, I'm sitting here, blue net thing up, covering the. And I'm holding Jamie's hand. She's shaking like this, because she's whatever. And they're like, all right, Dad, here we go. Get your camera ready. I'm like, camera? Like, how about get the baby out? And then, like, we'll talk about taking pictures and stuff. But, like, I don't have you put gloves on me, first of all. You want me to touch my camera? It's COVID, So that part confused me. And they pulled her out. And the doctor said, "Ooh, daddy, you're going to be happy we came out this way because she's a big one," if you understand what I'm saying here. And,
Wow.
I mean, it lightened the mood and I laughed and, everything went just fine. But yeah, naturally, Supermom gets home to our little townhouse and she's freaking, going up and down the stairs like she should be shopping at Backpacker, like ready to go on a cliff climbing trip and vacuuming and doing all this stuff. And then the next day, she paid for it. But
I think in my business, and I mean my life, because my life is a business. I believe that. I believe that my investments are my kids. I believe that my partner is my wife. But in my business, it's consumed and built on listening, and people who I think have been trying to talk for a long time and been looking for somebody to finally listen.
Right.
And so a lot of my friends, a lot of people in my life, I'm always listening to, and it's one of the great joys I have is actually listening. So like I'm all about it. Like I love it. I could sit here and listen all day long and hopefully getting some of these guests and being able to just spit out one or two questions and let them just go.
yeah,
Because, my experience, what's so funny is that my life took such a turn so young and such a change so young that I still had, almost 20 years of pissing away life in a lot of ways. Like I had made such a change in my life that I could date and screw that up, and I could go to school and drop out, and I could get engaged and have that fall apart, and I could, have this career and have that tank. Like by the time Courtney and I got married, by the time Aubrey had even come into my life with Courtney, I mean, I was in a studio apartment, like trying to just start over again. And I'm going, I don't know exactly if I'm the material you're looking for. Like, yeah, that's State Street right by campus. Yeah, that's not a wino. That's the college kids walking up and down after the football game.
promise he's not homeless.
Yeah, but I had no idea what I wanted. Because if I'd have told you what I wanted, this wife and the 2.5 kids and a decent house with a mortgage, which was everything that I think in a lot of ways my parents didn't have. They had 2 kids, they had a decent house, whatever, but like my dad struggled, my mom worked for the state, my sister and I were very close at one point, and then as she grew into adolescence and I became a terror, I'm this 5, 6, 7-year-old. I mean, she's going to college now. I'm kind of an only child for a good 15 years. I don't have really anything other than my 2 parents. And look, like kind of grew up a little bit in squalor. Wasn't the best all the time. But they did the best they could. My dad's dad died when he was 4. So, I had this idea of like, I want whatever, I saw other families have, what I saw on TV, I wanted the Huxtables. I wanted, a Full House, that whole kind of, and so it's so funny with Courtney. It's like, you're everything I never wanted. You're, you came with a kid.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was like, man, somebody with a kid, it's like you got some sort of baby daddy stuff going on or some messy divorce or what. And like her and Luke are like pretty amicable. Yeah. She was on a path in her life with Aubrey, just trying to be a mom. And I believe, and I say it to her all the time. And I tell most people, like, look, let me tell you something. I strapped on to Courtney's rocket ship. I mean, she did not get on my coattails, I promise you, because her trajectory was due north. You know what I'm saying? Like, I believe where she is today, she may not be there today, but she'd be there by next year. You know what I'm saying? Like, me showing up and added income helped.
Right.
But she was headed this way, man. She, like, Courtney, I can't say it enough that, like, I outkicked my coverage.
Yeah.
I don't deserve the woman I'm with. And, like, I watch her trying to be this mom to this kid, and I'm going, you're unsure of what you want to do. You've got this kid. You're unmarried. You're trying to take care of debt and things like that, and kind of put your life back together after this relationship ended, and all these other aspects of your life. Like, yeah, man, that sounds like baggage. What's crazy is her baggage was really neat, put together, real clean, and all folded. You know, it's
It
like
was in 4 rolling suitcases.
right. You know,
That's spread everywhere.
and so my whole experience was a little bit different because she gives me the lowdown about Aubrey. Aubrey was like choking. I think she like umbilical cord had her strangled. It was this whole ordeal. They like she had swallowed or ingested some of the or breathed in some of the marconium. I mean, it was nightmarish. After hours of intensive labor, they did a C-section. So when Ben comes, they were like, "Well, you can try natural, but since it didn't work out, maybe." You just go back. I mean, we already have a scar. We can go back in, blah, blah, blah. Right. And when I say, and I know you've heard me use this metaphor, but when I say it was like an oil change, I mean, we went in and the doctor was like, okay, would we have this date and this date? What time would you morning or afternoon? And he was born December 3rd. One of the dates was like December 7th. And I was like, my son will not be born on Pearl Harbor. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that would be bad juju.
I just,
obviously.
And I was the guy in full get up, like just, I'm just filming everything. I'm like, this is the big day, And all of a sudden she's, cause they take her away, they get her all done up and she's all in the bed. And then I and her mom were there. That was all that was allowed. It was all that was allowed in the hospital, like in the room.
Yeah.
It was COVID, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, it was real touch and go. On whether or not like we could be that, because I've heard those stories, man, and I was freaking out. I was like, if they won't allow me there, and I'm the only boy, right? It's this whole like, oh, I've got to go be this dad to this son, and it's crazy because all I wanted was like her to be okay and the baby to be okay, and I get in there and I'm all stoked, and they wheel her out or whatever, and they hit her with the drugs, and we're led into the room. And now it's real. Like, holy shit. Like she's laid out, Jesus, and can't feel anything from the neck down.
Right.
And like, they're just chatting it up. Like, this is no big deal.
Like,
and I'm going, where is this motherfucker?
right.
We're waiting. Like, you said 12 o'clock, I'm like, bro.
Yeah.
And here comes this guy's like, all right, who's ready to have a baby? And I'm like, what?
Not me, damn it.
Yeah, like, what do you mean? Like, were you running? Was tea time, ran a little late? Like, what's going on? And he comes in, and I mean, boom, boom. And the kid, like, he cried, and I lost it, and I was just, like, overwhelmed with joy and a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because she was such a champ about it, I think, because she had been there before.
Mm-hmm.
But what was really hard was I think, when he was born, like he failed a hearing test, and she's hormonal, and then they take him away to snip him. He loses some manhood right away, and they're poking him for allergies. She is flipping out. She's having like a whole scene, and I wanted a Xanax.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, either put her down or put me down.
Yeah, that should almost come standard, I feel like, the dad Xanax during childbirth.
And let's get this real. It's a Doodads podcast. We're going to be talking about, the unfinished backyard that I got. We're going to talk about DIY stuff. We're going to talk about how do we raise kids? How do we become good dads? We're going to talk about being coaches, being father, all the things. It's not just super deep stuff. It's not always comedic stuff. But, like, I want to say this with full candor, okay? Like, for you, for me, and for whoever's listening and watching, but like reality, I completely respect and worship the female body. They are complete gangsters for what they do. They carry an entire life and produce this living being. But you're not the only one in the room, man.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like, I'm not saying I'm not saying I know what it's like to be a woman.
A lot of people just got pissed off.
Oh,
and that's
well,
good. That's the goal. But you're right, because it is like,
this is for dads who like,
and
can't say like, man, I was scared shitless. You know?
And that's my thing is that, like, we've got a lot of friends that are have children, are children's, 4 and younger. And so like,
Who also have no business having
who
kids.
also have no business having kids. And we love y'all, but at the same time, like, but anyway,
High quality manhood.
definitely. I have yet to talk to one of them that has said, yeah, bro, I was cool, calm, and collected the whole time. Like every single one of them was terrified. And I think you're right. And it's not in any way to discredit what they go through, I'm still X amount of years, 3.5 years later, like watching Jamie, like, come back and regain confidence in her body physically, and like that's not something I understand. I'm lean, fit, I'm somewhat of a modern day gladiator, and although I did just have neck surgery and I'm just slowly getting back into the gym, put me on a poster, you know what I'm saying? And with her, it's like I'm watching this. She's having to relearn confidence in an entirely
Meanwhile, I'm
different body.
43 with male pattern baldness
Yeah, I
and
think we
about
should
30
clarify in
pounds
case
overweight.
people haven't figured it out yet. Carl is 43.
Yeah.
I just turned 32. So like, while we do have kids the same age now, we also were raised in you were raised in the 40s, 80s, right? Respectfully.
Really? Yes.
Yeah. And I was, late 90s.
80s, 90s, yeah.
And I was late 90s and early aughts, as the kids say. Like I'm definitely old enough to have feelings and very vividly remember.
Yeah, when the
9/11,
Third Reich
but
was happening in Poland, I was getting ready to enlist. Like, what
How
are you
was
trying to
that?
say? Oh, man,
Can we talk about
can
that?
you just keep talking? Like, and not about me?
But no, I think you're right. I think it is important that there be like a very clear understanding that this is not like in any means this like this is just to try to get guys, dads who have experienced this to understand that like it is okay that we all experience that. And you're right. And not to like, I guess we're divulging, but we went through a miscarriage last year. And, for me in that manner, and I know that's a very common thing. A lot of people go through it. A lot of,
You don't realize it.
No, I had no idea.
You go through it, and then everybody's like, yeah, actually,
we had one
did
too.
too. And you're like,
Or some people are like, yeah, we had 4 before we had, and I'm like,
I'm not
Jesus,
saying advertise it, but it's like, man.
Right. Yeah. And at that time, like, thank God I was able to keep her and her feelings and emotions and mental and spiritual state first, and realize that, in that moment, it was my job to do my best to support her and understand her and kind of just mirror whatever she was going through. If she wanted to talk about it, cool, let's talk about it. If she didn't, cool. If you wanted me to make you laugh, I would get naked and make you laugh, because that's typically where she gets a chuckle. Whatever. But in looking back at that, like it took its toll on me.
Would you say like exponentially, like the scariest, most powerless like moment in your marriage, at least, or in your relationship?
Absolutely.
Was for us.
Absolutely.
We've been through some things, but I remember sitting there in the hospital with Courtney when they were like, yeah, you're having a miscarriage, and being like, I didn't know what to do.
Well, and dude, like for me, like we had just gotten back from like our family beach trip with my family, all my siblings, my parents. And it was a Friday, and I was at an inspection. And so like she had felt like something wasn't right kind of that whole week. And then that Friday, like I'm out trying to be a dad and a husband and do my job and make money and provide. And I've got these people who are paying me for a service and paying me for my full undivided attention. Meanwhile, my pocket is vibrating nonstop that my wife's having a miscarriage, And so it's just like, those are the things that there's no preparation for that. The same way with actually the process of having the child, being in the hospital. Like I just ran into my cousin in the grocery store on Saturday, and I was telling these guys a story before you got here. But I'm looking, and my cousin's like 6'6", very recognizable physical stature. And he's meandering through the whiskey in Rouse's, and I walked up behind him.
Normal people do? They meander through the whiskey?
Yeah, most people meander through the whiskey. I think people like us tend to get tackled in the whiskey aisle. But yeah, he's just walking, and I'm an idiot, and I went up behind him. I said, "Dad, is that you?" And he turned around, and I swear, although we're related, it took him a good 10 seconds to be like, who is this bald man with a beard calling me father in the middle of the whiskey aisle? But it was good to see. Him and his wife just had their first kid on Thursday. And he was like, you know, we talked for probably
Definitely going down the
30
whiskey
minutes.
aisle.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it checks out. I didn't expect him to be looking for cabbage, you know, like whiskey made much more sense. But we were talking for a while, and I was just like, dude, there's nothing. Five nights, those like 4 a.m.s. You haven't slept, she hasn't slept. The kid is either sleeping or not sleeping, but they could give a shit regardless what they're doing. Were some of like my rudest times towards my wife. I was telling them like I wrote a full-fledged country song about how I hated my wife at 4 o'clock in the morning on a sleepless newborn night one time, and it hasn't come out yet. I'm hoping maybe we can record it at some point and I can get on the CMAs. But
Well, you know, the great thing about being a songwriter is that, you know, you get credit for the award for writing the song, but you don't have to perform it. You can be in the backlit,
So I
like,
should
no, but you can just.
Luke Combs, if you ever see this, holler at me because I've got a great one for you.
The dude just covered Fast Car. I don't think he's going to do
what
it
I'm
like
saying.
I
I
Hate
think
My Wife song.
No, but on the opposite side of that coin, I'd say I think he's ready now for my lyrics, for my song. But yeah, man, I think that this whole thing, I don't know, I think that this whole thing, and like we kind of talked about, like our goal, our hope moving forward is to bring in people who maybe an opinion here, hot take of the day. I don't think anyone's an expert in parenting. I don't think there's any dad expert, mom expert, anything. But like, you know, to kind of go back to the beginning of all of this, like this whole thing kind of just started as some random idea. Like I was sitting, Jamie and I were sitting, Julie does dance, and, you know, we drop her off, we hang out in the parking lot, it's only an hour or whatever. And so we were sitting in the parking lot waiting for her while she was at dance, and I was thumbing through the Ray Media Group, you know, thing. And I was like, man, like, you know, we've known Ken for a while. Ken's a good friend of ours. And I was like, dude, he's really doing his thing. Like, this is really cool. I'm happy for him. I'm proud of him. And I texted him and I was like, I have an idea for this podcast. And it was just kind of a whatever, you know, I'm full of great ideas and terrible at execution. And I told him that, you know, I felt like.
So you took a transfer bus to school too as a kid?
No, I rode my bike, and then I was cool enough to have the older kids pick me up.
I walked and rode my bike, and then eventually rode the bus when I got to middle school and high school. But my point is like same. Like I have a lot of great ideas. But...
Right. Just and like for one, also I think it's cool as shit to be able to have those cool ideas and be surrounded by people who can help you execute them. You know, and I told him about
and
this.
Also have the enthusiasm and the oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? The motivation, the confidence, the, you know, the cheerleading,
the nuts.
Well, that too. But I mean, seriously, like I think that comes into parenting. I think that comes into your peer group, whatever. But like, how many times I think I had like, man, I remember my mom. And this is one of those memories that I always, and I don't mean to get off track, but like, I remember as a kid saying, because I grew up, you know, watching Michael Jordan. I grew up watching WGN Chicago. It's how I became a Cubs fan. Die hard, like, I'm telling you, 2024, watch out.
We'll revisit this in
October. If they get some backside of their pitching, man, I'm telling you. Anyways, but I did. I grew up and my all-time like athletic hero, like sports hero, was Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. Like LeBron, Kobe, but he's the greatest. I don't care.
Yeah.
Anyways, but like, and I told my mom, I said, you know, I want to go be in the NBA. Right? I was 8, and I remember her specifically in the kitchen looking at me and going, "Yeah, well, you would have to be Michael Jordan." Having that conversation with a parent 30 years later, like you bring it up, not like you're at Thanksgiving dinner and you're like, well, let's talk about my trauma. Yeah. But like,
my mom said I'm not Michael Jordan.
We had those conversations and it was like, I had to remind her, like, but do you understand, like, how that sounded to my 8-year-old psyche?
Right. Yeah.
Was that you're not good enough. You're going to have to be better than that. Like, not, well, it's going to take a lot of work, sweetheart, but what do
Right.
we need to do?
Yeah.
You know, I think there's like, where is the sending your kid to every summer tournament, baseball league, or every wrestling school, whatever? And, you know, because I got a buddy of mine whose son right now just won state at Catholic High.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, you know, he wrestled, you know, state. His brother wrestled state. And so to finally have his son like win state,
Yeah.
and it was a big deal. But I know that he has devoted a lot of time to his kid. But I know that that dude has also devoted a lot of time into parenting and being a good dad.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying is like, I've had those same ideas. And I don't remember a lot of people walking up and going, you know what? I really think that's a great idea, Carl.
Yeah.
How can I help you execute that?
Right.
Or I
Right.
really want to cheer you on.
Right.
You know?
No, you're absolutely right. And I think that because I mean, I don't know, my childhood was, you know, I played baseball pretty much year round, that, you know, and there was never any like, no, Brandon, you're not this, you're not that, you know, there was never like, yeah, you're the next Derek Jeter, you know, that narrative didn't necessarily exist, but there, you know, there was, you know, it was pretty clear what was going to have to go into it for me to play at a high level. And, you know, I didn't put a whole lot into it. I played at a high level, but didn't, you know, didn't work very hard. And I think back to the whole, you know, legacy idea that we first kind of started with is that, like, I definitely don't, you know, like, if I think there's a fine line maybe between, like, if this was a dumb idea, I would have hoped somebody would have been like, I don't know, man, you know, like,
But why?
well, because I think that,
I mean, what's a
don't wanna
dumb idea?
well, I guess that's a good point. That's
I'm just saying, like, what do I want my kids to see?
Yeah, no, you're right.
My dad took a swing and missed.
Yeah, no,
At least
yeah,
he took a
that-
swing.
You're right, and that's a good
know, I
point.
mean-
That's a good point. I guess the as like for now, in a sense, like, I don't think I want to create any type of like false hope, but I think, to your point also, I don't want to deny any possibility of success either by like having this preconceived notion that you're just not going to be able to do that.
Well, I think the idea of like gentle parenting is there's a kind of like a misinterpretation of what that may be sometimes. Also, you know, I'm participation trophies. You know,
Right.
all you kids, you know, y'all all you don't have no competition no more. It's like, yeah, jackass,
Right.
who bought us the trophies?
Right.
Who created that?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Right.
I'm not saying that I don't want my kids to struggle.
Right. No.
But
yeah.
like, I'm not going to go if you have like 3 fly balls you dropped and you go 0 for 4 in the box. I'm not going to go, man, you did great.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, yeah, wasn't your best day.
You know what's
You want to go
funny?
in the backyard and, you know.
So my senior year of high school, we went to the state semifinal playoff game in Shreveport, and my stepdad still remembers exactly how many errors I made at shortstop, what I went for at the plate, and you know, and we joke about it now, but it's just like, as a parent, I guess that's when you spend 15 years putting time and energy and effort and money into this activity for your child, and then it culminates in this, you know, at the time, the glory of all glories, you know, you're the top guy, it's your senior year, your school hadn't been there in whatever it was, 8-9 years, and then all of a sudden you absolutely shit the bed and you're supposed to be this guy, you know, like, as a parent you go, what do we do all that for, you know? And I hope that isn't something that I hold on to, like, you know, and it's not to knock him whatsoever. You know, but my younger brother played basketball. He's about to be 20. Played basketball. That was his thing. He's baby giraffe body type, you know, very tall and lanky. And although he looks like he's underwater when he's running, he was tall and lanky, and so basketball is his thing. And like, the last couple of years of his high school basketball career, per se, he came off the bench, but there was a lot of good athletes, you know, and I could see that, like, love him to death as his big brother, want to see him succeed, want to see him on the court, want to see him play. but I'm also not dumb and I can recognize athleticism. And when there's 7 or 8 guys who are just physically faster, bigger, stronger, more athletic than you, it makes sense as a high school coach why those guys are going to play and you're going to come off the bench. But I would go to games and watch how angry and upset and frustrated my stepdad would be at him not playing, that the whole boat of getting to enjoy his high school basketball experience was just totally missed. And in a sense, I'm like, damn, like, you just, that whole experience for your son, you just kind of, I don't want to say missed out on, but like, if that's what we remember, like, I remember him going up and trying to dunk one time and getting hung up on the rim. And, like, he was, still is. I was just talking to Jamie about it last night. He's an asshole. He's super cocky, but like, I love him. He's much like me, but he's running up and down the court, smacking the hardwood and talking crap and in people's face. I mean, he's the kind of kid that in 33 seconds he has 4 fouls, and you're like, how did we get here? They're in the bonus now, and you just got on the court. But there's a lot of cool stuff that he got to, and then like whatever Julia ends up doing, whether it's dance. I don't think she got my athleticism because I've watched her kick a soccer ball, and she does soccer every Monday actually, and she would rather like sit in the goal and play with leaves and like the herd of children. We're talking about toddler soccer here, but they're chasing the ball, and she would just rather chase the kids and forget that there's even a ball on the field, which is hilarious and cute, and I love it for her, and I have no problem watching her do that. But whether it's dance or gym, she likes to perform. Like, she stands on our little fireplace hearth and sings and everything. But whatever it is that she does, I just want to invest into it to where looking back, I can go, yeah, you're right. You did do that. And so I guess in a way contradicting my first point kind of, but like I don't want to force her to do something in particular, but just be able to help her execute whatever it is she feels like she wants to do,
Aubrey got real serious into like WWE
wrestling.
Oh, dude. And there was like a women's division, and she was like, and so
yeah.
I was like, hey, that's good for little girls, confidence, whatever.
Right.
And we went to Raw, we went to SmackDown, we were, and then right around, she turned 10 as COVID happened. And so like, it really, as her adolescence started to come up, she, COVID's happening, so she's kind of growing out of things while she's stuck in a house.
Yeah.
I mean, she's literally like finishing, I think it was 5th or 6th grade or whatever, completely virtual, whatever. But there was like this period, and I told her, I was like, if you want to go be a professional wrestler, I will do whatever it is you need me to do. Yeah. I don't care how ridiculous it is. Whatever.
Yeah.
But you were saying Jamie and you were having this conversation and about, the podcast, and, you've had a lot of ideas, but you've been looking at Ken and.
Yeah. Well, and I just texted him and I said, dude, I have this idea. And there's, if they do exist, I'm sure they do. I'm just unfamiliar with them. But there's a lot of information, podcasts, content, whatever, for wives, for women, moms, and that's good, and I think that's fine, and I think that they're just I didn't think any of that existed for guys and dads and dudes and husbands and fathers, that was just kind of real and raw and uncut. And like one of my favorite stand-up comedians, we got to go see him at Sanger in New Orleans last year, and he's somebody who has been doing comedy forever and ever, and like his first few specials and his material was just very out, but like the one we went and saw, his most recent one, he's got a almost 4-year-old son and another son, but it was funny shit, but it was all real life dad shit. And I was like, man, like that doesn't really exist. And so I talked to Ken about it, and he was like, dude, that's brilliant. And then the next day I had texted you about something totally unrelated, and you said, so what's up with this podcast ? And then it was just like this immediate
let's have coffee on Monday.
Yeah, let's have coffee on Monday. What's your schedule? Let's not let this thing fizzle out. And so and then here we are, and I think that obviously the goal moving forward is to just see where this goes, and to kind of give our ideas and tell funny stories and give opinions and experiences. And hopefully more than anything, like I would love more than anything to get to have guests come on and have the conversations, just you and I, and look back a year from now and be like, man, that's crazy that that's how I felt and thought at this point last year with a 3.5-year-old daughter. You know, this is how I feel now with a 4. You know, like I think it's cool to get to monitor and see and compare the growth, you know, because as our lives pertain to that, it's either you grow or you don't, and growing is better than staying still, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, probably as we kind of wind down, like that's the thing. I mean, we're still like the Polaroid generation. I mean, everything that we grew up with is still frames,
Right.
you know, little snapshots,
Right.
glimpses, and in 2024, like I think that's the idea, right? Like we both agreed that, you know, legacy, all that, but we can actually look back and see our kids' growth, see our growth, see the growth of friends.
Yeah.
And I want to have guests on that challenge me and that I'm willing to challenge, because I'm not always going to I want to reconcile some things that I hear sometimes.
Right.
I don't know if that jives with me, what you're trying to sell me.
Right.
I think sometimes we're going to get together and talk about, I think probably as we close, like, you know, one quick story about last night, you know, it was the Grammys, and, you know, it's a thing that we do as a family. We used to, you know, Aubrey would come, we'd watch the Oscars, the Grammys, all that. We'd make some food and we'd hang out. Just future reference. Maybe Julia will be different, but at 14, she doesn't come out of her room as much and hang out. But, you know, Ben,
trouble doing that at 3.
yeah. But Ben was, you know, whatever. So I made some pizzas. My wife's currently trying to, you know, go back to school and get her master's. And again, superwoman, man. Just, she blows my mind. But you know, Courtney and I had a bit of a falling out the night before. You know, not one that was going to break up the marriage, but one of those where, like, I stood my ground, she stood her ground. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you kind of go on this kind of silent, like, well, all right, you're going to get the kid to school. Okay. Yeah. You know, you look at each other and you're like, who's going to yield first?
Right, right.
Obstinacy of 2 adults. So last night, she had a Zoom call she had to be on, and she got off, and she's by the fridge, and she walks up and she says something or another, and I'm just kind of yeah. In the Grammys, I got them recorded, and I'm getting ready to go start them because I'm not going to wait. You know, I'm so angry.
Right, makes sense.
Make my point, and she just, you know, she's just standing there, and then, you know, my son walks up and says, "Mommy, Daddy, talk." That's why I'm doing this. I just, you know, I want to say thanks for actually wanting to take that text message, that coffee meeting, sitting down, coming to the house, smoking cigars, and like really like saying like, let's do this. Cause I know we're going to have another episode, and we're going to have 2 more after that. And hopefully we keep on, but like, just us doing this.
Yeah.
Like,
no, man. And thank you for helping me to carry out this wild random idea in a dance studio parking lot, you know, because that's where this started. And sometimes, you know, having the encouragement from somebody who I personally look up to and respect to kind of just sit down and chop it up. Not that, you know, don't let that fill your britches, but it's true. You know, I mean, we're friends. We have a good relationship outside of this, but I think that, you know, with the experiences that we both have, I think we can make this pretty cool.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Have a good week.
You too.